What are the best travel credit cards? How do you save on travel without using credit cards? How do you get paid to travel? How do you get your husband to take such good photos of you? These are all questions that you have about travel that I am answering in today's travel Q&A. Today is my birthday. I know. And I thought a travel Q&A would be a fun way to kind of do something different, switch it up, and celebrate. You submitted all of your questions via Instagram stories, and now we're gonna go through and answer them. I got all of my questions pulled up on my phone. Let's get started with this first question. What are the best travel credit cards? I get this question all the time, and I wish there was a straight answer, but the truth is it kind of depends on your goals as a traveler and your personal credit history and financial situation. So it kind of depends on the individual. This is because there are different annual fees that different people can afford, different travel benefits that some people might want and some people might not care for, etc. But that being said, there are two cards that are my personal favorites and that I would recommend, especially for beginners or people looking to get into the travel credit card space, just because they're relatively affordable in terms of annual fees, but also provide a lot of great benefits. The first one being the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is relatively affordable in terms of travel credit card annual fees, because some of these annual fees can get really pricey. It's a lower annual fee of $95 a year, which I feel like is doable for most people. And the benefits that you get with this card pay for that annual fee tenfold. And other than the benefits that the card comes with, it also has some of the most valuable points and miles in the game. This is because Chase Ultimate Rewards transfer to Hyatt. And with those Hyatt points that you transfer from Chase, you can stay in some pretty luxurious resorts. We're talking like all-inclusive, we're talking Maldives, we're talking fancy hotels in fancy places. You can stay at these places for free and for pretty little points. My second favorite card that I would recommend is a higher annual fee, but also has some more benefits, and that is the Capital One Venture X. The Capital One Venture X has a higher annual fee of $395, so obviously this is not necessarily a card that will be best fit for everyone, but it does, like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, come with some benefits that make that annual fee pay off if you are intentional about using them. So one of those benefits is a $300 annual travel credit that I usually use for like rental cars. And you also get a 10,000 mile yearly anniversary bonus, which is cash valued at least $100. So that right there covers the annual fee. You also get decent airport lounge access with this card through Priority Pass and the Capital One lounges. And this card has 2x points per dollar spent on every purchase, so you will get at least 2 points per dollar on every purchase spent, which is really valuable. The Capital One Venture, if you don't want to spend that annual fee, is another good option. My husband and I have had the Venture and the Venture X open for years. We love them, and the Venture also gets that 2x points per dollar. You don't get all of the bells and whistles that the Venture X comes with, but the Venture is a good option that is a lot more affordable than the Venture X if that's what you're looking for. Like I said, I own both the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Capital One Venture X and love them. I plan to keep them open for many years to come. So those are two of my top recommendations, but I do have an entire blog post about the best travel credit cards for beginners on my blog. I'll link that in the description. And I have a video coming out in the next couple weeks, so make sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for that. Oh, and I do have a free quiz that can help you decide which card's best for you, so I'll link that too. Next question is, how were you able to save up for all your trips before having credit card points? And this is a great question because some people live in other countries where credit cards aren't as readily accessible as here in the States, or some people should not have credit cards. If you're prone to credit card debt and spending above your means, I don't recommend getting into the travel credit card and travel hacking game. So this question is for you. I want to start off by being as fully transparent as possible and being honest in the fact that my dad was a pilot growing up. He's an airline pilot, has been my whole life. So I was very privileged to have flight benefits up until I graduated college. As long as I was a full-time student, I was able to fly standby for free, which obviously played a huge role in how I was able to travel so often before I got into the credit card game. Then after I graduated from grad school, I had to figure out a way to get these flights for free still so that I could still travel as often as I want, and that's where travel credit cards kind of entered my life. But even then, I had to find creative ways to save up for and save on travel. I was a full-time student and working part-time, so I wasn't like working a full-time job making a lot of money. So I still had to get creative. Even though I had those standby flights available to me, I still had to get pretty creative with how I saved up for and saved on travel. So I followed a very strict personal budget that prioritized travel. I created a separate travel category in my personal budget. So of course you have housing and you have grocery expenses and you have transportation expenses. I have made a whole other category for travel. That was usually around 5 to 10% of my monthly income, depending on how much I made that month. And I did this on purpose because I didn't want travel to just follow under like spending money or fun category that a lot of personal budgets have. Because I have found when you don't separate part of your budget for and designate it for travel, you spend it. You spend it on the t-shirt you want, you spend it on, you know, the new couch or furniture that you want or the new phone that you want. I found that you end up spending that money on other material things instead of saving up for that trip that you actually want to go on. So this way, you still have, you know, a 5 to 10% amount allotted for that spending money, but then you also have a separate travel category that doesn't get touched until you're ready to book your trip. When I allotted my income to that travel category, I automatically transferred it every month to a high yield savings account, and then I didn't touch it until I was ready to book. Also, speaking of spending money and material things, I very rarely spend presently money on material items like clothes or new shoes or food out or drinks out. I honestly rarely spend money on those things because I personally value travel and trips more. Especially when I was a student, I always ate at home. I never went out for food. I never went out for drinks. And I re-wore clothes from years prior. I still do this. Most of my clothes I've owned for years, and when I do buy new clothes, it comes out of a place of need and not necessarily coming out of a place of want. I personally value travel more than these material things. And so it's a lot easier for me to then allocate more money, more of my monthly income to travel as opposed to those material items. And that helped me save a lot faster for the trips that I wanted to go on. If you want to know more about how to budget for travel and set up that personal budget accordingly, I do have a step-by-step guide in my blog that I'll link below. Next question is a fun one, and it is, if you had to move to a country you have never lived in before, which would it be? So I have lived in the US, obviously. I'm born and mostly raised in the US, so that doesn't count. Also Ireland, I cannot count Ireland because I lived in Ireland as a kid, and I also studied abroad in France during my undergrad, so I feel like I can't really use that either. Even though I wasn't there for like years at a time, I still feel like I can't give that answer. My next option would be Norway. I fell in love with Norway immediately when I visited for the first time. My ancestry is predominantly Norwegian, so the food, the culture, the people, the physique of the people, it all felt so familiar to me, and I just loved it. I literally felt right at home. Not to mention, I loved the weather. I love cool weather. As a Nordic, I don't do as well in hot, humid climates, so I love the weather there too. So that would be my first option, Norway, or maybe Italy, because there's so much to do in Italy that you really need to spend a long period of time there, like in order to experience everything from like the coastal towns, and then there's the historic cities, and then there's like the Tuscan countryside and the Dolomites. There's so many different places in Italy that I would like to spend like a significant amount of time there to explore the whole country, but I still think I would choose Norway over Italy. What are some affordable accommodation hacks? So as I mentioned earlier, my favorite accommodation hack is to transfer Chase Ultimate Rewards points to Hyatt to stay in Hyatt hotels for free. But if you're not interested in the credit card world, then my next best bet for affordable accommodations would be to use Hotwire. Hotwire is especially great for last-minute luxury hotel stays. Before Points and Miles, I used Hotwire for basically every single one of my trips and stayed in hotels like the Intercontinental, the W hotels, nice Hilton hotels, and more for literally less than $100 a night. So I think it's safe to say that I've mastered the Hotwire booking game, and I do have a Hotwire cheat sheet on my blog as well that you can download for free. So I'll link that in the description as an extra resource for you as well. But Hotwire is where it's at. Cheapest places to travel that are still cool. There are so many places that you can travel to for very affordable prices that are still very iconic, very cool. To name a few examples, Bali, Greece, Egypt, South Africa, Costa Rica. All of these places are very affordable, especially if you're coming from somewhere with a strong currency. If you're from the US or Canada or even Europe, in these places, the currency exchange rate really works in your favor and makes it very affordable for you to travel there. Of course, there are a lot of places. I do have a free budget bucket list that you can download that I'll link below that has a list of all of the cheapest and coolest countries to travel to in the world, but those are a few of probably the most iconic and affordable ones. Ways to travel as a college student. Okay, so in addition to all of the budget travel tips that I always recommend and have recommended in this travel Q&A, a couple college specific ways to travel more would be to take advantage of study abroad programs and to take advantage of foreign aid / missions trips. The advantage of studying abroad is that part of that cost is lumped into your tuition, which can save you money short term and enable you to travel more and explore outside your home culture. And then similar idea, missions trips or foreign aid trips are usually fundraised, so often you can pay very little out of pocket to go on these trips and explore other cultures. And then also don't sleep on hostel backpacking, because honestly, I've stayed in some pretty nice hostels in my lifetime, especially during my college years. When I was studying abroad in France, we went to all of the Northern European countries, stayed in hostels. It was great. They were really nice. So don't sleep on hostels. Do your research, find some good ones because they're out there. Have you ever taken a celebrity or Virgin cruise? Thinking about trying them? I actually have not. I've only ever been on 2 cruise sailings and both of them were on Royal Caribbean. One was in the Caribbean and then one was in Norway. Although that's not for any particular reason. I'm not necessarily like brand loyal to Royal Caribbean, although I did love those sailings. So I would definitely be open to trying Virgin or celebrity in the future. I just haven't. Now let's move on to some travel blogging, travel photography questions. Starting with a question that I get asked all the time, and it is, what is your biggest money maker in the travel blogging space? My biggest money makers in travel blogging are ad revenue and content licensing. As a travel blogger, I earn money through the ads that are placed on my website, on my blog, and also now on my YouTube videos. For my blog, I work with an ad agency, Mediavine, to get those ads on my site. It's very passive and definitely my favorite way to earn money as a travel blogger. I also make a significant amount of money with content licensing. Basically, brands will pay me to take high resolution photos, high res videos, or casual UGC type ad content, usually for their social media, their website, and their advertising campaigns. And for these ad campaigns in particular, brands will also pay a monthly licensing fee to license out the photos that I own and that I took. So those 2 revenue streams are my biggest money makers. I do have a blog post and a whole other video about how to make money travel blogging, if that interests you, where I go over all of my revenue streams as a travel blogger. How to teach a husband to take good photos, send help. I get asked this all the time, and trust me, it is possible to get your husband to take good photos of you, because when Kenny and I first met, when we first started dating, he was not a photographer, and now he arguably sometimes takes better photos than me. So it is possible, and this is exactly how I did it. So first, tell your husband to stand exactly where you want to stand in the photo. Adjust the lighting for him, get the framing exactly how you want it when you're in the photo, and take his photo. Then show him the photo, complimenting his good looks, of course, and also specify key features like that framing, like where you want your head, like where you want your feet, like where you want parts of the background to be in the photo, where you want the top and the bottom of the photo to be. Specify those key features so that he essentially has a copy and paste when he takes your photo. If your husband doesn't like being in photos, you can of course do the same thing just without him in the photo. I've just found that having him pose first kind of helps him visualize where I should be in the photo and where everything else in the photo should be. Also, have a lot of patience. Being kind goes a very long way. Being patient goes a long way. And if he doesn't give you the exact photo you're hoping for, give him a compliment first before criticizing. Say, I really love how this is in the photo. I really love how you did this, but now can you do exactly that? Plus, and then insert whatever change or criticism you have. Always give him a compliment first and then ask him to take it again just like that, but also with XYZ. How do you go through all of your travel content? I have thousands of pics. Where do I start? I personally edit all of my travel photos chronologically. This may or may not be the most efficient way. Some photographers might do it different, but I find that I stay the most organized and the most efficient when I just go through my photos chronologically in the order of when they were taken. I skip editing exact duplicates. I skip editing, obviously, photos that I don't like. And then also, to stay extra organized, the photos that I love, I will also edit in black and white. And then that way, when I go to my external hard drive to find that photo that I love, it's easy for me to find because there's a black and white photo right next to it. And then of course, my external hard drive is organized in different folders for different trips. And don't be fooled though, it usually takes me at least 1 to 3 full work days to edit a whole trip worth of photos. So it takes a long time, and it could be even longer than that depending on how long the trip was, where we were, the content I had to shoot for the hotel or brand that I was working with. Editing travel photos does take a long time for all of us, and organization and time management are key, and to give yourself grace if it takes you a long time, because it takes a long time. I will link all of my videos and blog posts about travel photography and photography tips in the description. Now we're gonna get into some fun, more personal questions about like relationships and also real estate, because a lot of you follow me on Instagram where I have been sharing house updates and renovations and real estate investing things for years. So I got a couple fun questions about those. First, will you be sharing more on house projects you are working on? Absolutely, yes. Kenny's been working 24/7 practically on our new investment property. It's in my Instagram story highlights if you want to get caught up on it. But basically we bought a half-built house. The last owner builder backed out of the project, so we built it for Kenny, who is a carpenter, to finish and then sell. And I haven't been to the house in a couple weeks probably, actually, so that's why I haven't had any updates lately. But yes, I will definitely be sharing those updates as they come. We also have lots of plans in the future for different projects that I will be sharing about too that are very exciting, so stay tuned for that. Are you still planning on building on your lot? A couple years ago, you may or may not have seen that we bought a lot to build on, and the answer is we don't know. Our intention with that lot was to build another property to sell. We were never planning on building our forever home on that lot. But as we were starting from scratch, we learned that building a house from the ground up, between the loans, the picking out materials, and then the actual building, can take a very long time. And because it was intentionally an investment property, we kind of had to weigh whether we wanted to build and take the time to build that, or look into other investments that would be faster and turn over a profit sooner. So that's why we haven't built that property yet, but we're not necessarily not building on that property. We're kind of leaving it open. If we end up building on that lot, we end up building on the lot. If we end up selling the lot, we end up selling the lot. We're not really in any rush to go either way, to build or sell, but that is what happened with that lot. So the answer is, I don't know. We will see. Do you have any regrets about getting married so young? No, definitely no regrets. I was 21, no, 20, how old am I now? 27, it's my birthday. And it is our 4th year married. So I was 23 when we got married, and Kenny was 25, and 0 regrets. Kenny is my absolute best friend, and it has been so fun to just be best friends together, always. Also, I know the first few years of marriage, especially for people who get married young, are stereotypically very hard. Kenny and I have been blessed with a very, very easy marriage. We've just had a lot of fun together and a lot of joy together. And I credit this to us having done the hard work before we got married. We both were in individual therapy for our past trauma, to heal past trauma, to heal anxiety. I had OCD and panic disorder. He had anxiety disorders. So we worked as individuals on cleaning up our messes before we came together in marriage, and I definitely credit our easy and fun marriage and joyful marriage to that. I would highly, highly recommend, if you are, no matter what age you are, if you're planning on getting married, to put in the hard work before you get married so that you can just enjoy each other's company and have fun and love each other and be happy while you're married. Makes life a lot happier and a lot easier. And that is all we have time for in this travel Q&A. I hope you learned something and had fun watching this video. That's just a little bit different from the typical video. And if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. If you have any more questions you want me to answer in a future travel Q&A, let me know in the comments. And other than that, I will see you in next week's video. So for now, ciao.